So please do kindly disregard the chaotic mess that is behind me. We recently had a roommate move in, and so everything's still kind of halfway in, halfway out. I know it's a mess, but we're gonna move on. So I know the fedora apocalypse will descend upon my tiny channel should this video ever go viral, but we're gonna just talk about it anyway. Male authors are shit at writing female protagonists / heroines. Now, if you know a male author who does really good at writing female protagonists or heroines or whatever, prove me wrong. Leave a comment down below and tell me what book they wrote, your feelings on it. I want to know. I want you guys to prove me wrong, because to be honest, right now I kind of need the hope. It's getting kind of depressing. Because everything up until this point has been just really bad and really kind of sexist. So what set me off on this ridiculous rant? This book, Death by Coffee by Alexson. It's not that hard of a name. It's not that hard of a name, Lizzie. Why is it so hard? Alex Erickson. It's a murder mystery novel set in every nerd with energy problems dream in a bookstore / cafe. I bought this whole series when I swore that I wasn't gonna buy anything. I was just there to look. I have impulse control issues when it comes to books. Anyway, main plot summary. Chrissy and her best friend Vicky strike a deal to create a coffee shop / bookstore in the middle of a backwoods tiny town called Pine Hills. Okay, the town's realistic. I know a few places like Pine Hill. Chrissy is the typical book smart, intrigued and obsessed with puzzles and mysteries, big and hella self-conscious. I'm not like other girls, introverted, but completely subverts her entire personality to move the plot along, girl. So the whole thing starts out because she serves this dick named Brandon Lawyer, who's a lawyer, a cup of coffee. About 3 hours later, he dies. He's been poisoned, and the police think it's because there was peanuts in his coffee. After Chrissy comes to the realization that she did not in fact kill him, she is then suddenly and completely obsessed with the entire case and can't let it go. She just can't let it go.
Let it go, don't give a shit anymore.
Here are a few reasons this book is actually kind of fun to read. There are a bunch of zingers and one-liners in this book. I cackled many times reading this, and there were many times that I was like, look, read this thing. It's super funny. And then like I would laugh, even if the person that I forced to read the one-liner didn't laugh. But there are a few really good passages and one-liners that made the book worth it. The case itself is pretty cool. I really didn't guess the killer until actually when the heroine figured out who it was. I didn't see it coming, so kudos for that. The book itself doesn't take itself very seriously, or at least it doesn't feel that way, so it is a fun, light read. It's not very hard to follow through. It's not very thick. Chapters are pretty straightforward. It just doesn't feel like that serious of a book. So if you're just looking for a murder mystery that's pretty good, but you know, just don't take it too seriously and you don't want to put a lot of weight on it, the series is, I mean, I've only read the first book so far, but it's not bad. But here are the reasons that I knew Alex was a boy before even reading his biography in the back. A few reasons why male authors are really bad at writing female voices. My best friend is tall, skinny, and a bombshell syndrome. Let's be honest. I'm still best friends with at least 2 bombshells. typical bombshells, either really tall and skinny and blonde and movie star beautiful, or they're petite and boobalicious and just goddess-like. I have 2 of them that I can name off the top of my head, and I'm going to try not to, just for the sake of their sanity. The problem with this syndrome is that a lot of male authors, some female, but mostly males, have this girlfriend friendship where they're friends with this beautiful, gorgeous, goddess-like bombshell, and the entire time they're like, oh man, I wish I could be her. Do you want to know how I describe my best friends that are the bombshells to anyone that doesn't know them? Look at this gorgeous goddess, she's funny and smart, and I love every inch of her. Can we make it a rule that male authors are no longer allowed to use this trope, specifically male authors that want to make friendships in the book? You are no longer, I have taken your best friend card, you're not allowed to make their best friend a bombshell and then pit themselves against each other. It's just not allowed anymore. It's not realistic. It's not reliable. It's also very toxic and sexist to think that girls only make friendships to pit themselves up against each other, or that every friendship is the girl secretly jealous of her best friend. You want to know why I'm jealous about my best friends? One of my best friends knows how to ride a horse. It's been a long time since I've rode a horse, and I'm kind of jealous that she still knows how to ride a horse. And she looks like a freaking Greek goddess galloping throughout the fields on a horse. I'm also jealous that one of my other friends knows how to pole dance. I'm not coordinated enough. I wish I could learn, but nah. Those are the things I'm jealous of them about. I'm not jealous about their looks. I love them, and I think they're perfect. And every person that I am best friends with, especially girls, I put on this tier because they're my best friends and that's the way that I see them. But friendships aren't about putting yourself in a competition with another person. If I wanted to be in a competition with another person, I'd be in an actual competition. And not only that, but it's really crappy and a really poor sense of writing to make a big girl self-conscious and put herself up against her bombshell best friend. It just adds to the stereotype and the bullshit that doesn't need to exist. I'm a big girl. My thighs jiggle, and I've been flirted with just as many times as my bombshell friends. Fight me. My biggest concern is one tiny portion of the novel that I can't let go. Girls don't do this. Drive in the middle of the night to an unknown clandestine location to talk to a stranger you've never met that you suspect is a murderer and not tell anyone about it. Don't even bring anyone with you. Just straight up go there, no plan, no exit strategy, and just wing it. No girl ever. And the only girls that have are in movies and TV shows and books like this. Chrissy decides in the middle of the night she's convinced herself that the widow of Brendan Lawyer, who's a dick, murdered him because he was cheating on her. Okay, classic trope, but okay. She's convinced herself the wife has done it, so what she does is drive to her house that she realistically shouldn't know where it is, but she does in a tiny town she's never lived in, drives straight to this widow's house in the middle of the night, doesn't tell anyone she's going, just up and does it. Goes to this person's house where she doesn't know if they can have guests over, if they have a gun, if they are the murderer. What are you gonna do if you confront them about it? What are you gonna do? You barged into their home. She walks up to the door. The mother of the widow answers and tells her she wants nothing to talk. She doesn't want to talk. She blah, blah, blah. And she pushes past her into the house to ask the widow questions in an interrogative tone. She's not even a cop. And the mother threatens to call the cops, which, to be fair, I would have. Like, how dare you barge into my home and ask my daughter thousands of highly personal questions in the middle of the night with you didn't even ask to come. You didn't even call ahead. I had no idea you were coming. Girls don't do this. It's not realistic. I know you needed to push the plot forward and this conversation needed to happen, but let me tell you that's not how it would go in real life, and it's incredibly, incredibly annoying. Anyway, she's portrayed Chrissy is portrayed as an introvert for about 60% of the book. She's a homebody, she likes staying home with her cat, she really only hangs out with Vicky, she goes to the coffee shop, goes home, she does Sudoku puzzles on her kitchen counter, watches TV, eats tubs of ice cream when she's upset. Like, from page 1, it's kind of given that she's an introvert. She doesn't like go out a lot, she doesn't like to go party or make friends, anything like that. Except for when it's the case. She busts across the street into the middle of this insurance lawyer, whatever's office, and demands to talk to the secretary, and he essentially accuses her of sleeping with her boss, which she was. But the point is that as an introvert, who are you? You get this hair up your butt and just go running across the street, burst into a building you've never been into, you have no idea who's inside, and you just ask questions. I just go, are you an introvert, or are you just an extrovert that's introverted when convenient for the author, which is what this is. She is only introverted when it's supposed to be oh, look at my introverted butterfly, she's so shy and doesn't want to talk to people, and she's drained from all of the peopling all day, except for when I need to push the plot along. It just doesn't make sense. She also chases people down the street to talk to them, barges into shops to talk to people, gets in the middle of gossip to talk to people, to listen. Like, it's her borderline abusive ex. As someone who lived that life, as someone who escaped that life, and who suffered at the hands of a manipulative asshole douche canoe that could burn in a car fire, let me tell you, it's not... Chrissy does not have the personality of someone who escaped something like that. Essentially, it's set up that she's left him, she's escaped from that manipulative trap that he put her in, and she's finally free and she can breathe again and she feels happy. And we have one conversation with him. He calls, she picks up and starts talking to him, and she's aggressive and back talks him and blah blah blah, and then hangs up on him and how dare he call and blah blah, and then that's it. That's all we get from him. I mean, there are a few things at the very beginning when she's moving in where she's like, oh God, I'm so glad I'm free of him. But she doesn't think about it ever. She doesn't talk about it ever. She doesn't bring him up ever. And as someone who was in that situation, and all situations are different, for months afterwards, it was a huge part of my daily thought process. It was a huge change in my routines. I would have to fix myself daily in order to get a basic normal human routine instead of what I was used to doing. And I thought about it constantly. And for a year afterwards, I still felt the effects, and I didn't think about him daily, but there were times when I would get so angry because I saw his face on my Facebook memories. And there were times when a song that I had dedicated to him in my head when we were in a relationship would come on the radio, and I would get choked up. And there were times when he was the only thing I could think of, except for in this book, for someone who had a manipulative asshole of a boyfriend who is borderline mentally abusive to her. If that's the backstory you've given her, then 3 paragraphs about him when he calls at the very beginning of the story, and that's it. You didn't put a lot of work into this. You didn't think it through, because apparently people can just shut off their emotions and their history and their backstory and all of that when it's convenient. It's not... It's like the author decided, ooh, I'm gonna make this girl realistic by giving her a realistic backstory of escaping from an asshole ex-boyfriend who is very manipulative. But I'm only gonna bring it up once to show that she's realistic and that she's, she feels lively, but we're not gonna do anything to make it stick. Like, This author's biggest problem is that things happen when it's convenient for the author to remember, instead of writing this like a person who has suffered at the hands of someone else. Essentially, the author felt like they were going to throw a girl on it, and it was going to be cool and catchy and a big draw because it was a girl character for a murder mystery, and it was going to be a cafe bookstore murder mystery detective series. But her personality and the way she's framed, it changes so often. You can't really get a set of who she is, because her personality and her memories and her emotions and all of that change as the situation changes, but not in a character arc, more in a, the plot is more important than the character is. And as someone who really, really loves character development, even if we're talking about dragons and fantasy and there's a kingdom on fire, the characters are what's important, because the story isn't really a story if there's no one to drive it. And this story is driven by the plot and not by the character. And for a murder mystery that's kind of, there's like no dragons to save you, there's no magic to save you, it's your person, and if they're good enough to keep everyone's attention, then they can help you tell your story, but you gave yourself no bonuses with this one. Now, there are like 1,000 rants I could go on about this book, but the thing is that I bought the whole series, so I have every intention of finishing it. We'll see what the second one is like, and we will come back and touch back on this male author versus female protagonist rant again. I like to give series a chance to grow. Sometimes your first book isn't always your best. You get it out, and then you're like, oh wait, I need to fix some things, or I like this way better, or whatever have you. So some books get better as the series go on. So we will see if this is one of them. Now join me next week when we cover a tough topic of whiny male syndrome when we read 2 by 2 by Nicholas Sparks. It's gonna be a fun ride.